So you have decided to do masters after your architecture undergrad in the US. Save yourself hours of Googling. This video shows exact step-by-step process and timeline of preparing your portfolio, SOP, shortlisting university, and hitting the submit button. Hi friends, I'm Srijan, an architect from Nepal currently practicing here in the US, and I make videos related to architecture to help architecture undergrad navigate their career abroad and the grad school questions and whatever's there. So now let's get to the video. So in this video there could be a lot of information, I'm sure. So I've actually prepared a bundle in Notion which is free to download. I'm gonna put the link in description below, and you can just download that as PDF or just go into Notion so that it will help you track your applications. And I've also put the Excel file of all the list of universities that I've applied to. So go and check that out, and let's get to the video. So when I was starting out, I didn't have any idea about anything of going to the US. So I think when you are starting out, the main confusion for you would be like, when does the session even start? So sessions in the US, they actually start thrice in a year. And the first one is during August, and which is called fall session. And then there will be another one which is in winter, and that is called spring, and which happens during January. And then there could be also in one session in summer, and that could start maybe around like May or June around. So basically there are like 3 sessions. And if you are targeting for next year, then you should target for fall 2026, because for January 2026 it's already too late in my opinion. I mean, you can still do it, but I'm just giving the more ideal scenario of planning things. So let's get started with that. And now that you know when does the session starts, now let's know what are the requirements that is needed to apply for any kind of a university. The first important thing that you would need is portfolio. And then you would need SOP, that is also called statement of purpose. And then you might have to take exam, which could be entrance exam, that is GRE. And that is kind of not mandatory nowadays for an architecture background, or if you're going for architecture school, but you might still want to check that. And then you would need an English proficiency test. That could either be TOEFL or IELTS or anything. There are other things like PTE, Duolingo, and stuff like that. So you need to check what does your university or the university that you are looking for is accepting. And then after, letter of recommendation. And if you are not going for Master of Architecture or anything like professional degree, then you might need something like research paper or something like research statement if you don't have a portfolio requirement. So these are all the requirements that you need if you want to come for masters in the US, be it for architecture or engineering. It's kind of like generic, but portfolio is the only thing that you would need extra if you are coming for architecture or anything that is design related. So now let's start planning. And for most of the universities, their deadline, it's around like November to Jan. So the earliest November is mostly from November 15, and the late would be around Jan 15. So you gotta target these deadlines and when you are doing your portfolio, GRE, and whatever. So if you are targeting for the fall 2026 next year, then I would first start with an English proficiency test, maybe TOEFL or IELTS, whatever's convenient for you and whatever's your university accepts. And for most of the university in the US, they accept TOEFL. And if you are doing GRE, then I would highly recommend to go for TOEFL, because they are from the same system, that is ETS, and that's why it's kind of easier. I took TOEFL and GRE, so you can see a lot of similarities. So in August, I would first start with TOEFL. And depending on your background, I think 4 weeks to 8 weeks is enough to get a good grade on TOEFL exam if you have like a very good English background. So I'm assuming that 1 month should be enough for TOEFL. So if you are starting out from August 1st, then let's end the TOEFL on the month of August, and then your target should be more than 25 on each sections. So in TOEFL there are like four different sections, that is reading, listening, and then speaking and writing. And if you want to get a good teaching assistantship or research assistantship, then you need to score more than 25 in the speaking and writing and listening and reading as well. So it's always better to get above 100 in TOEFL. And personally, I scored 104, I think, and my listening I got like 27 or something like that. So, and my speaking was above 25. It was like 26, I guess, and writing was 25 or something like that. So, anyways, my TOEFL was 104. And then after, I would start preparing for the portfolio from September. And I cannot stress enough that how important portfolio is, because like I think I regret a little bit on not working too much on portfolio when I had at that time when I was preparing for my master's application, because later when you come to the US you won't have time at all to prepare another portfolio to look for the internship. And then when you come to the US in August, you should start working to find internship, because you will have your internship for the next summer and it will start from May, and you will probably have like 4 or 5 months to look after the internship. So like that's the whole different story. Probably I will cover it this next time, but I cannot stress enough how important portfolio is. So you should definitely work on your portfolio and check out like very high caliber portfolio in issue or any other websites, and check for the portfolios which got into Harvard's grad school and stuff like that. So work on your portfolio. I would say give at least 4 weeks for your portfolio. And now at this point in September, you are already done with your TOEFL and your portfolio. So now you should start writing your SOP, and then also inform people who are ready to recommend you, so that you can get letter of recommendation very earlier. Otherwise, like what happened to me is, you will be very close to deadline and then people won't be able to figure out how to do letter of recommendation, because it's not just a letter that they will provide it to you. You have to provide email of your professor or the person who is recommending you to the website portal, and they have to basically go there and then write the letter of recommendation before the deadline. So it's always better to keep them updated about it. So I would say start your SOP and then letter of recommendation during October. So at this point, I'm mostly talking about the people who are pursuing architecture or landscape or anything that is design related. But if you are not doing design related stuff, then probably I would spend a little bit more time on taking GRE, because my experience with GRE was it was very tough. So even before taking TOEFL, I would do my GRE. So, but if you're looking at the timeline that I have right now here, then after your August, after your TOEFL, you will have a little bit of a time during September and October. So maybe you would spend 2 months of time frame for your GRE. If you haven't done your GRE yet, that would be a little bit congested in a deadline term, but I think you can still do it. So moving on, now that you are done with your TOEFL and your portfolio, SOP, and letter of recommendation until October, then you gotta start applying for your universities from early November up to January. But before that, you might be wondering, like, when should I start researching about universities? And I would say, like, you should start researching for the university throughout this time frame of August to October, because it's not like you're going to find the university outright in one night, you might want to do more research. So even when you are studying TOEFL or doing your portfolio, you might have some opening time in between. And at that time, I would highly recommend to do shortlisting universities and researching about it. Yes. And after that, you will have enough time to apply in November. And the reason I'm telling that you should apply very early on in November is because like there are universities who will provide scholarships on the basis of rolling order. So it means what it means is if you apply very earlier in the deadline, like early bird gets the good worm. So stuff like that. So if you apply very early on, then you would probably have the college admission letter and scholarship even within December. So I highly recommend you applying around that time frame. But however, life happens. Even for me, like my thing, I actually finished my application at January 15. So basically, I was done with my portfolio at July 2020, but when I applied, it was already Jan 2021. And the reason like I was so late, it was because like I was not even thinking of going to the US at that time because like it was during COVID time and I didn't even think that I would get any kind of scholarship. But my friends, they encouraged me. So I started my TOEFL actually at November. So I took my TOEFL in December 7 and then I barely got my application done until January 15. So I would say I got lucky. And because I got lucky, I even got scholarship after that. And now that your application is submitted until I would say like January, then January to March is a very good time to look for loans. And I don't really encourage taking loans for masters because it's, I mean, in my experience, it's really hard when you take loan and come here and then you gotta pay back all the loans. It's too much pressure. So I always believe that you gotta have some kind of a research assistantship or TA or any kind of scholarship so that you can manage it by yourself and rather than taking huge amount of loan. But still like if you wanna have something, then you should start looking for the loan. And maybe it could be some bank or like managing your own personal finances and stuff like that. So you could do that. And most of the time, you would get your application letter, not application letter, your admission letter until the March. And even I got my admission letter at the end of March, I think. And initially, I got the admission letter where I was just getting like 25% scholarship on the resident tuition fee. And then after 25% stipend. And so what that means is, so in the US, there are like three kinds of the fee. First is the international tuition fee. And so basically it means like if you are an international student, then you have to pay a huge amount of a fee. And also if that is also applicable for people who are outside of the state. So basically, if you don't live in the state where you are going to study, then you have to pay the international tuition fee. So, and that will be very expensive, like maybe it goes up to $15,000 to $20,000 per semester. And for me, luckily, I had a scholarship, but scholarship was also like 25% on the resident tuition fee. So what resident tuition fee means is it would be like half of the international tuition fee. And so, for example, if the international tuition fee is like 15K, then it would be $7,000 around. And I got like 25% scholarship on that. So I had to pay rest of the money. And then with my teaching assistantship, probably it would just give me like maybe $400 per month. And then at that time, I didn't accept the offer. And then later on, they came back with the offer on April end. And then at that time, I accepted the offer. So my offer was, I had a 50% scholarship on the resident tuition fee. And then after I had a teaching assistantship as well. So even the hours was a little bit more for the teaching assistantship. So I was getting 10 hours of working as a teaching assistant and then 50% on my resident tuition fee. So I was paying maybe like 3600 per semester and then getting $900 from the teaching assistantship job. So I think it was neck to neck, but I kind of manage it. So I would say like if you have offer like that, then go for it. Otherwise, I don't really want to stress someone so much for getting loans and coming to the US, because like look at the situation right now with the new administration. It's not even feasible to do any off-campus job or anything. So it would be too much pressure. So I don't really recommend that. And now that you have finalized that you want to go to university that give you a good admission letter or whatever, and after that it's a good time to start. And now that you have finalized that you want to go to a certain university that provided you admission letter, and now it's time to get your I-20. And for that, maybe during March or April when you get your admission letter, you might have to give a deposit so that you get the admission, and also send the your banking document or your personal finance showing that you can afford to pay certain money if you have to pay. Otherwise, if you have a whole scholarship, then you don't have to worry about it. So basically you have to show that to the college, and they will issue an admission letter, and you will get this document called I-20, which could be around like the early May. And so in I-20, what it shows is like it will give you an ID called Savis ID, which I will tell you a little bit later. But also in I-20, it tells you how much money that you will need to survive in the US. So basically it includes your tuition fee and also your expenses of living cost as well. And then it will tell you that if your personal finance or if your scholarship will be able to afford that. And that's the I-20. And after getting your I-20, now you can start filling up this application called DS-160. So DS-160 is the form that you have to fill up before you go and apply for the US visa interview appointment. And then you can start filling that up. And then after, you can go to US Docs website, and then you can get your interview appointment. And even before doing that, I guess you have to pay this MRV fee. So in my case, I am resident of Nepal, but at that time, the US embassy was not operating in full scale in Nepal, and that's why I decided to go to India. And that's why I had to make a different DS-160 for India and then pay MRV fee in India itself. And so when you pay your MRV fee, like you gotta start looking for those appointments, and getting those appointments, it's hassle. It's so much of headache because they're always limited stock, and you gotta keep your eye on that every single time. And that's why it's always good to do that very early. So I would say like when you are done with your application and get your I-20 at around May, start looking for that appointment and try to get it around June, July. If you don't get it, even you can push up to August, because that's what I did. I got my appointment in August 1st, and then I left for the US in August 14th. So you can imagine like I didn't have any time at all to do anything after getting my visa. So it's always good to schedule it as early as possible. And now that you have scheduled a visa appointment and you have also got your visa, so now that after your visa you will have some time, and after that time I would actually start connecting with people. And connecting it with people, like I would say during this time I will try to connect with any kind of a Nepali organization or any organization that is relevant to your culture or your country, because that helps you a lot when you are going to a new place, and that helps you to make a new contact and also like get used to with the country and stuff like that. So I think it's a good time to do during June, July, even before you got appointment or when you're looking for appointment. So that would be helpful. And now that I want to address about scholarship, like when you start applying for that, or like what should you do. So when you are done with your portfolio and your GRE and then statement of purpose and letter of recommendation, and then you will be most probably applying for the college from this time frame of November to January. And at that time, I will continuously reach out to college alumni or even to the professors, telling that like I have interest in certain things. Like for example, I told them that I'm interested in doing research related to sustainability, and reach out to one of the professor. And that's why I was that's what I was doing. And then you got to do that continuously so many times, and you can even do it from August as well, because it's not like you're gonna get the recommendation or the scholarship from anyone right after starting it, because you have to maybe even reach out to 100 professors to even get reply back from 10 of them. So it's always good to do early. And also, even after getting, if after submitting your application in January, it's still good to keep reaching out to the professor after that as well, because you can tell the professors that I have applied to your college, so I'm interested in doing this and that. So that would give actually more ground for you. And also, it's even better when you get admission from the college, because when you get admission, then you can tell the professor that I'm coming to your university. So if you have any position, research assistantship or anything, so that would be around like April. So you can even do that. So reaching out to professor, it should not be like a one time thing. You should do it continuously, even when you are doing your TOEFL or your portfolio. Like just try to make connection. And I think the most important tool to do that is LinkedIn, because it's always good to find alumni network in the university that you are looking for. So let's talk about shortlisting the university. So when you are shortlisting the university, first I would start with the fee, like how much is the fee for the university. And second one I would look after is what is the course that the college is offering, and if you are interested into that or not. And then third is the alumni network. If you have anyone that you know in that college, and if you also know that that person is working with some professor, then you should definitely talk with them, and because that will help you give a good connection with professor, and they will also have a ground that maybe this person is a good person, and then I can provide them some teaching assistantship or research assistantship or whatever, or even a scholarship. So that should be like three major things when you are shortlisting a university. And when even you are shortlisting the university, I would do it in a three different column. So first one should be like ambitious one, and second one should be like a mid-range, and then third one should be like okayish type. And when I'm talking about ambitious one, and that should include like maybe Harvard, MIT. That sounds too much, but like you never know, like your profile could be too good. And then Cornell and stuff like Ivy League kind of university. And then mid-tier university, like even Iowa State, where I went to, kind of like mid-tier, and also North Carolina State University. And if you don't know anything about university, then I can even attach an Excel file somewhere around here, and you can look into it, and I can I can share all the universities that I found when I was applying at that time. And so if you have this short list for the university, then probably you will get it in at least 2 or 3, and then you will have more option to choose. So now that I have given you a lot of information regarding the timeline and how to approach everything. So I have you guys could get into the US in 2026 August fall semester, I guess. But with all the things going on, I know it's going to be a little bit challenging and it's going to be a bit tough to find scholarship. But I will probably make some video on what strategies that you could use so that you can showcase your talent as an international student and shine out in a lot of other applications. And so in next video, I'm gonna talk about how I did my SOP that landed me a scholarship, and also I can walk you through my portfolio and give some tips and tricks for the portfolio. So stay tuned and watch my ARC stories.